Everyone. I'm just going to allow a couple more people to join in and then start my webinar. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on Workbooks tips and tricks. So my name is Ansel Gomes, and I am part of the support team. You might have come across my name when reaching out for assistance with any cases or issues. And in today's session, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks in Workbooks. As you know, Workbooks has a ton of features, and it's easy to feel like you're just scratching the surface sometimes. I know what it's like to spend time doing things the long way until someone shows you a tiny trick that completely changes how you work. That's why I wanted to run this session to share those little tips and shortcuts that can save you time, simplify your day, and give you those light bulb moments where you think, why didn't I know this before? By the end, I hope you'll learn at least one thing you didn't know before, and that will make your work life a bit easier starting today. As you know, we host webinars every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time. On the screen, you'll see topics we've recently covered and what's coming up next. If you like to explore these topics in more depth, we also run a 2-day training course for system admins and reporting. Also, for more information, you can reach out to your account manager or email us at training@workbooks.com. So for today's agenda, we'll be covering tips and tricks in the below areas that's shown on the screen. But I just want to start off by saying that if you're using a cut down version of Workbooks, you might notice that some records aren't available to you. And that's totally normal. It just means that your system administrator has set certain access limits for your account. So a few of the tips and tricks I'm going to show you today might not apply in your setup. Also, Workbooks has loads of cool tips and tricks I could share. And honestly, we would be here all day. But for this session, I've picked out the most beginner friendly ones. So these are the things most end users will be able to use straight away. So if you don't see every single hidden gem today, don't worry, I just couldn't squeeze them all into one session. So in today's session, I'll be sharing tips and tricks in the following areas. We'll start with springboards. Some of you might have already be using springboards a lot, and some might not have switched them on at all. But by the end of the session, you should have a good idea of what they are and how springboards can help you work faster. We'll then look at different ways to create new records depending on where you are in Workbooks. If you're using springboards, you'll see how easy it is to create new records from there without having to move away. I'll then show you how to arrange your windows so you can see records you need quickly and how to close them efficiently when you're done. Next, we'll cover desktop shortcuts. They're not like the kind of shortcuts on your laptop or Mac, but they're still very useful. And then move on to pinning records so you can get to your important items faster. Along with pinning records, we'll then check out how to save views on landing pages. And finally, wrap this session by highlighting a few preference settings that can make navigating workbooks a bit easier. And of course, there'll be time at the end for any questions you have. So, springboards. Before we dive in, I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with what a springboard is. So you can think of a springboard as your home screen in Workbooks. It's where you can access all dashboards you need for your daily work in one place. So this helps reduce clutter and makes it easy to flip between different areas without having to jump around too much. Each user has their own springboard, and on it, you'll see a collection of dashboards. So what are dashboards? Dashboards are a way to see multiple reports, charts, and key information in all one screen. They give you a real-time, holistic view of your business, and you can use them for things like pipeline management, case handling, or tracking the financial health of your business. On your springboard, you will notice across the top, each one takes you to a different dashboard. For example, you have a sales management dashboard, a sales executive dashboard, an opportunities dashboard. And switching between them is as simple as just clicking the tab. The goal here is just to make it quick and easy to access information that matters the most for your role. In addition to dashboards, you can also add landing pages to your springboard. For example, I've added a landing page showing my activities as a calendar. By combining dashboards and landing pages this way, you can just save time navigating around and really just drive your day working through the tabs on your springboard. Now that you have a brief understanding of dashboards and landing pages, the next thing to learn is who can add them to your springboard. Well, that depends on your role in Workbooks, whether you're an end user or a system administrator. If you're an end user, you can easily add dashboards and landing pages to your own springboard and really just set it up any way you like. But if you're a system administrator, you can take it a step further and add dashboards to your springboards for an entire user group. For example, if you want to add a specific dashboard for everyone in the sales team, so all users in the group can see the same information right away. Let me now just jump into Workbooks and give you a live example of what I've been talking about. For those who've joined these webinars before, you might recognize a demo environment. Today, I'm logged in as a salesperson named Anthony Khan. I also wanted to mention that Anthony Khan is also a system admin here. Right now, we don't see a springboard for Anthony, and that's because a springboard only appears once you've added at least one item to it. So let me show you how you can do that. I'm going to start by adding a dashboard, and to do that, you go to Start Dashboards, and here you can see a list of all available dashboards. Let's say I want to add a dashboard called Sales Executive My Day. So I'm going to start off by just looking for it first. So it's just Sales Executive. So it's this one. I am doing it as a regular end user. So what I'm going to do is I'll open the menu on the left-hand side. And one of the options you'll see is to add to my springboard. And when I click it, the icon, the wording changes to remove from springboard, which acts like a toggle. So you can switch it on or off. And now if I leave my dashboard and refresh my screen, which is basically the same as logging out and into Workbooks, There you go. You see my springboard, and it has my sales executive My Day dashboard added. And from this point on, every time I log in, the springboard will appear automatically. I also mentioned earlier that if you're a system administrator, you can push dashboards out to a group of users all at once. And let me show you how that works. So this time I am going to go to dashboards, but I will use the desktop shortcut I have here. And again, you can see it's the same list of dashboards. Let's say I want to add a dashboard called customer services. So I'm going to start by looking for it. So customer services. I'm going to open the customer services agent dashboard. And this time, instead of just selecting, sorry, wrong button. So instead of just selecting add to my springboard, I will choose edit this dashboard from the menu. And at the bottom here, there is a field called Springboard Groups, where you can add one or more groups whose Springboard should contain this dashboard. And I'm going to add the customer services group here. So just look for that. There. Save and close this dashboard. Now, if I go back to my Springboard, which you can find via the little house icon on the left-hand side, and open it, you'll see two tabs. One is the Sales Executive My Day dashboard I've added as a regular end user, and the other is the Customer Services Agent dashboard that I pushed out as a system administrator. So you see, this is a simple way to make sure the right dashboard appears to the right people automatically. You'll also notice that my Springboard is currently set to cover full screen. And I like it this way because it just gives me plenty of space to see all elements and I get a clear view of what's going on my Springboard. But you can change the layout of your Springboard. And to change the layout of your Springboard, you can click the little cog icon in the top right-hand corner. And you'll see that there's a Springboard window just under the Preference tab, and it gives you various options. Now, let's say I want to change my Springboard layout to be narrow and save it. And then refresh my page. Remember, this is the same as login out of Workbooks and login in for the adjustment to take place. And you can see that my Springboard is a lot narrower. If your Springboard is, if you prefer your Springboard to be narrower, that's totally fine. You can just play around with the settings and see what works the best for you. I am going to change mine back to full screen. Okay, so you'll also see that there is an option to hide the Springboard altogether. You can do that, although I don't recommend it. You'll also see that there is a little refresh your dashboard icon just there. But this button doesn't really reset the layout of the Springboard to full screen. So I'm going to set mine to full screen, save it, and it'll ask me to refresh the page. I'm sorry, refresh my browser. And there you go. My Springboard's back to full screen. While we are in the cog menu, let's take a quick look at what else you can do. So alongside preferences that you can use to adjust how wide you want your Springboard to be, there's also an item tab. So this shows you different components that are on your Springboard that either you or your system admin have added. So you might notice, for example, the Sales Executive My Day dashboard has a little cross next to it, but the one below doesn't. And that's because if it's something you've added yourself, you can just remove it whenever you like by clicking this little cross. It's not like you're deleting the dashboard, you're simply just removing it from your Springboard view. However, if it's something that your system admin has pushed out to everyone, you won't be able to remove that one. Even Anthony Khan, who I'm logged in, is a system admin. I can't take that one off. So that's all the tips and tricks I had on springboards. I also wanted to mention that my colleague and team lead Ashley will be presenting a webinar on springboards and dashboards next. So please feel free to join if you'd like to learn more about how to use springboards and dashboards effectively. Next, I want to show you how easy it is to create new records directly from your dashboard. Now, if you look at the Sales Executive My Day dashboard, you'll see a new button with a little downward arrow. From here, I can create different types of records. Let's say, for example, I wanted to create a at-risk task. So I don't have to go to Start and then New and then Task and then At Risk. It's all here. I could just press that and that opens an at-risk task. Let's say if you switch to the Customer Services Agent dashboard, you'll notice that you have different you have an option to create different types of cases just as easily. So why would you need that? Say, for example, you work in customer service and someone calls in to log a ticket. You can just create a case straight from here, from this screen, without having to navigate away from your springboard. Now, setting up the ability to add new records on this dashboards is something that a user with system admin capabilities has to do. But it's really easy. I'll show you how. So I'm going to open the customer services agent dashboard using a little diagonal arrow, so which is just there, and then go to edit mode. And about halfway down, you see create new records, which says allow a user to create new records of specific types from this dashboard elements. And you see it already has cases, but you can choose, there is a pick list that contains different types of records that you've already got in workbooks, including, by the way, any custom records that you might have created. So perhaps I wanted to create emails. I'm just gonna type emails, add emails, and then save and run. And then go back to my Springboard. There you go. You can actually now, along cases, you can also create emails from here. So the next thing I wanted to then talk about is arranging your windows. So you might have noticed that in Workbooks, that when you have multiple windows open at the same desktop, they don't always open in separate tabs like other tools do. And sometimes that means things or records they start to overlap a bit. For example, if I open a case, I'm just going to go to Start, Cases, All Cases, and just choose a random case. Let's just choose this one. You notice how this opens in full screen, and that's because I've set my preferences in that way. But don't worry, when we get to preferences section, I will show you how to set this up. But suppose you wanted to see something else at the same time. You could minimize windows, or I'm sure you could drag the edges around like how I do, trying to just resize things so you can fit everything on one screen. That works too, but it's a bit of a pain and can take time. There's actually a much easier way. You can snap a record to one side of the screen, either left or right, so you can view multiple things at once. And to do that, what you do is you click the top left corner of the record window, and about halfway down, you see options to either snap to the left or right. So I'm going to snap this one to the left. And now say I want to open another case. Let's just pick this case. And now you see that it's opened again in full screen, but that's how I have my preferences set up. So I'm going to snap this one to the right. And now you can see you have two cases open side by side. And that's super handy because you don't have to resize these records to make them fit. You can just use this tip. Another thing to mention is that if you want to snap records of the same type, so by same type, I mean to cases, to organizations, to activities, so the same type, to the left or the right, you could use the tile, which is on the left. So you see this little arrows here, you can use them to snap the record to either left or right too. But again, this only applies on snapping records of the same type. Right. So you see this case I have on the left, it's for Atlantic Service. Now let's say I want to open the employer record. So when this opens, it opens in full screen. But let's go and snap this one to the right. Now suppose I want to open the primary contact on the case, who's Alan Whitehead. So you see how you have the little hyperlink there? So when it's underlined and it's a hyperlink. So when I click it, it opens the person record, and I'm going to snap this person record to the left. So again, now I have two records I can see at the same time, one snap to the left and the right. So that's it on snapping windows. I hope this gives you an idea of how it works. And now let's move on to desktop shortcuts. Desktop shortcuts is really simple. All you need to do is open a record you want to create the shortcut for. For example, on the left-hand side, I've got a person record for Alan Whitehead. If I want to create a desktop shortcut for that record, I just go to the same icon we used earlier for snapping the windows left or right. From there, the first option is to add to favorites desktop. So when you click it, there's a small window that will pop up asking you to enter a shortcut name. So you'll notice that it automatically suggests the name of the record, but you can change it to anything you like. In my case, I'm going to call it Head of IT Atlantic Services. Press OK. Now let's say you want to create a shortcut for another record. Let's just say opportunity. So I'm just going to choose an opportunity linked to this person. Let's just pick this one. That opens again in full screen, but you can still go to the top left-hand corner, add a shortcut. Again, it suggests the name, and I'm just going to keep it. So I've created shortcuts, but I still can't see my shortcuts. It's because I just have lots of windows open and everything's a bit all over the place. And if you look at the taskbar on the left-hand side, you can see that I just have various records open. But to tidy this up, I'm going to show you my favorite shortcut button in Workbooks, and it's close all windows. It's that little tiny cross within a square next to the start button. Now, I know some of you might have your start button at the bottom instead of the top, and don't worry, you can still find this little shortcut button next to it. So when I click it, there we go. Everything's closed down, and now I can see my desktop shortcuts a lot more clearly. So one's for the person record, that's Alan Whitehead, and the opportunity. So desktop shortcuts start off white, but then they change to the color that corresponds to the type of record the shortcut is for. And if you no longer want a desktop shortcut to appear, for example, Alan Whitewood person, you can simply click on it and remove shortcut. That's it. It's as simple. Now, just in case anyone was wondering, this doesn't work like Windows desktop shortcuts. You can't just right click and automatically arrange all your shortcuts alphabetically. They will appear in the order you've added them to your screen. So it's also worth mentioning that there is another way to make records appear exactly where and when you want them, and that's by pinning them. What this means is that when you log into Workbooks, any record you've pinned to your desktop will open automatically. So why might you want to pin records? So you might want to pin records you use every day, like your daily dashboard, a high priority customer record, or a project tracker. That way, every time you log into Workbooks, those records open automatically and are ready for you. So there's no need to hunt for them or open them manually. For example, let me just open the person record for Alan Whitehead. So to do that, I'm going to use my recent items button here. So that just has a list of all items you've recently had open. And then open my Alan Whitehead person. And to pin him, I will again use the top, go to the top of the button on the top of the record on the blue bar. There is a push pin icon and it says open this window at next sign in. So when I click it, you will notice that the push pin points downwards, which means that the next time I log in, anything I've pinned will automatically open on my desktop in the same size and position it was pinned. Um, I'll do that for another record, say this opportunity record that I created the shortcut for. Let me just resize it, maybe just, yeah. And then I could use the push pin, which is also on the top right, and push it down. And then let's say I refresh my browser. So there you go. Because I pinned it, the records I pinned before, they've just opened as soon as I logged in into Workbooks. And this will continue happening every time you log in until you unpin the records. So as I mentioned before, and as most of you know, I work on the support desk. And one question that comes up all the time is about pinned objects. So I thought it'll be a great opportunity to walk through that today. So let's take an example. Say you have a person record you've pinned on your desktop, like the one I have here for Alan Whitehead. If I go ahead and delete that person record and refresh, you'll notice that an error message pops up and it will say something like, Workbooks couldn't find the record you requested. Either the object has been deleted or you don't have permission to access it. I will demonstrate this for you. So I have this person pinned to my desktop here, and I'm going to delete him. Just to be clear, wouldn't recommend deleting items in your own system, but because this is the demo environment, it's perfectly safe for me to delete objects here. So I'm just going to delete him. Okay, I've deleted him and I am going to refresh my browser now. So there you go. You have an error message now, as I just mentioned earlier. But when this error message pops up, it's completely just safe to press OK and carry on working. It won't prevent you from doing anything. Think of it as a little tap on your shoulder. It's just letting you know that, hey, you've asked me to find something, but I couldn't, so I'm not sure what to do. So you can just press OK and just leave it. You can switch that off within preferences, but when we get into the preferences section, I'll show you exactly how to do it. But for now, let's move on to landing pages. So what is a landing page? Landing page is basically a collection of records of the same type. So if you look at your start menu, you'll see things like people, organizations, and so on. And each of these record types has its own landing page. Now, when you move on to areas like sales, the menu splits a bit. So you can access things like leads, opportunities. If I go to marketing, you see things like campaigns, mailing lists. So I'm just going to open the organization landing page. So you see by default, it took me to my view. So things like my organizations or my activities, my people. So it's the my view. And the records you see in my view up here because they're assigned to you, the user who's logged in. So in my case, Anthony Khan. And if you look at the assigned to column here, you'll see that it's all these records are assigned to Anthony, and hence why they are in the my view for Anthony. This view is useful, but sometimes you want to add a much more customized view, a hybrid view, if you will, without having to set filters and adjust settings every time you come in. And just in case you didn't know, you can create your own views and save them for reuse. So let's say I wanted to create a view for all organizations assigned to me in London, and say I was also interested to know in which industry sector they are in. So right now you can see that the industry column is visible, but I can control which columns appear by hovering on the top bar. And if I select the little downward arrow on the column header, I get an alphabetical list of all fields that exist for organizations, and I can switch them on and off. Let's say, for example, I just wanted to switch annual revenue, so that will hide the column, and say I wanted to expose the created ad column. So that will show the created ad column now here. And just in case you didn't know, you can also drag and drop these columns to rearrange this view any way you like. So I'm just gonna bring created ad just after town. There you go. Okay, and now I'm gonna add a filter to say, just bring me organizations that are in London. So I'm just gonna use the equals filter because it's a lot more efficient way for searching for data, and type in London and apply filter. So here, now you'll see, you're only seeing records assigned to me in London. Now, I won't have to rebuild this view every time. I can just save it. And to do that, you'll have to go to the top right. You'll see a view option. And if I click on it, you will see a save as feature. So I'm going to save this view and give it the name London and press OK. So this view is now saved, and it's added to the list of views on the left-hand side, and it's ready to use anytime. So these views, this view is a dynamic view. So for example, if I added another organization record that's assigned to Anthony and it's located in London, it will automatically appear in the drop-down first. Similarly, if an address of an existing record from this view changes and it's no longer in London, for instance, it moves to another city like Southampton, it will no longer appear in this view on the landing page. Next, I'd like to briefly talk about setting default view for records. So remember when we first opened the organization landing page, it defaulted to my organization. Now let's say if you want to, let's say when you open organizations, you want the London view to be your default view instead. Here's what you can do. Again, go back to view, options, and you'll see set as my default view. So just click that. And if I close this page and open it again, it'll open right in the London view. So as I mentioned, the views we're looking here are dynamic. You'll also notice that in my organization view, um, my organization view, because our London view is based on that, it will show anything assigned to the logged in user or anything a user is watching. Let me show you what that means. So if I jump back into my organizations, and let's say I'm looking for an organization called Innocent Drinks. Press show. I'm just going to add a filter to just be quick. Okay, so Innocent Rings, that organization is in London, but it's assigned to Carolyn Sterling, and that's why it doesn't appear in the London view right now. But here's the cool part. If I open Innocent Rings and click the watch button, which is the little eye icon, I can choose to watch or stop watching the record. So it's this button is a simple toggle on and off. And once I hit save and close and go back to my London view, um, and there you go. You see that this view is in, well, this organization is based in London, but is assigned to Caroline Sterling. But because I'm watching that record, it appears in my view. So why would you want to watch a record? So let's just imagine you're a sales manager or a support team lead. You might not personally own any opportunities or cases, but your team does. Maybe there's a big deal you want to keep an eye on, or a critical support case you want to monitor closely is the word. So instead of searching for it every time, you can just watch the record and it'll automatically show up in your view. So remember how I mentioned earlier that you can do more than just add dashboards. As an end user on your Springboard, you can also add landing pages. So say you're on the London view and you want to add this view to your dashboard, you'll have to go to view. And just under set as my default view, there's add to Springboard. So just click on that. And you also see a little success message that's popped up to confirm that it's been added. So now if I go back to my Springboard, you can see my landing page. The London landing page I've just added. One more thing I wanted to mention, if I close all the windows, you'll notice that the Springboard doesn't close. And that's by design. So you've not done anything wrong because the Springboard doesn't disappear. You can minimize it if you want and go back to working on your desktop, but it'll always be accessible. Okay, so we've now reached the last part of my session where I will point out a few areas and preferences that you might not be aware of, but you do have control over. So how do you get to preferences? So you can get to preferences using two options. You can go to your profile here, click on preferences, and that takes you to preferences, or you can right click on your desktop. And this is one of the rare cases in workbooks where right clicking works. You can just click preferences. So both methods take you to the exact same page. I'm just going to close it. And there it is. Yeah, so both methods take you to the same page. So if you go to profile, you will see this is how Anthony Khan looks like. You can upload your own profile picture. And if you go to look and feel, this is where you can change how your desktop looks and how much space you have to work with. So if you see the checkbox labeled choose a look and feel, and if you can tick the box, the other options will be available and will be active, allowing you to make changes. But if this checkbox is grayed out and you can't select it, that means that your system admin has set it up in that way so that you can't modify your look and feel. But for those who have this option ticked, let's just see what you can do. So for taskbar position, you see I have my taskbar to the left right now, but you have three options. You can either set it to the top, the bottom, or left. I'm just going to change mine to the left and leave the stack taskbar icon checkbox ticked. I'm going to save that, save it, and yeah, leave page for the changes to take effect. And there you go. So yeah, you see this error message popped up again. It's just a warning message, and it's because I had a record that I'd pinned to my desktop, but it's been deleted. We can go and fix that now. You'll also notice that my taskbar is at the bottom. That's because I just made those changes. I'm going to go back to my preferences um, and go to pinned windows and then just delete this, remove it. And now if I refresh my browser, you see we've got rid of the warning by doing that. I'm just going to go back to my preferences again and now talk about desktop behavior. So you see here dashboards, recent items, training videos. So they are the shortcuts we provide. Um, if you don't want any of these, you can just untick them, and that's perfectly fine, and they'll disappear. I don't have many ticked on right now. You'll also see that you have an option to control the size of your springboard. And as I mentioned earlier, you can either do it within the cog on your springboard itself, like I showed you earlier, or just within your preferences. Both the places do the same thing, and whichever setting you change most recently is the one that takes effect. Window behavior. Remember how all of my cases earlier and even the organization and the person record was opening in full screen? That's because I had the maximize all windows checkbox ticked. That's why they were opening up in full screen, but you can untick it if you want. I'm just going to leave mine checked for now. Great. So I quite often see in customer databases, especially when looking at records on landing pages, or this even applies to records, that when you're viewing things in grid layout, the default number of rows you can see is 20, but then you can adjust it to however many records you want to see per page. So it goes up to 100, but you can control it all here. If 20 rows is enough for you, that's fine. But if you have hundreds of records, it just means that you have to page through a lot to see everything. Just going to talk about notifications now. Remember how we talked about watching records? So just under notify me of comments on my assigned records, I have this checked off because if you're watching many records, um, and if a colleague adds a comment to a record you're watching, that will just give you a lot of notifications. And if you're just watching so many records, you just don't want to be spammed with notifications all the time. And you can control that using this checkbox. And that's it. We've now reached the end of my presentation. So I'm just going to do a quick recap. I do realize that I've shared a lot of tips and tricks, so I'm going to do a recap now. So springboards, if you aren't using them, please start. Remember, you can add dashboards and landing pages to your springboard. Once you're in your springboard, you can also create new records directly from your dashboard. We looked at different ways to arrange windows. You can use the snapping feature or the close all windows using the little button next to your start menu. We also explored methods for quickly accessing specific records using desktop shortcuts and pinning records. Using organizations as an example, we saw how to save views. You can also save landing page views um, on and give them names and even share them with others if needed. Finally, we explored some options and preferences to help customize workbooks for your individual workflow. And there are many other settings that we didn't cover in preferences like email accounts, but I encourage you to explore them to familiarize yourself with what's available. So now, do you have any questions for me? Okay, so I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to move on. As you know, questions. Um, so I'm just getting my mouse to the right window, so bear with. Oh, sorry, we just have a new question. One sec, I'm just biting my mouse. Just tech things, I'll figure it out. Give me 2 minutes. Perfect. I got my mouse on the right screen finally. Um, I just want to confirm if everyone can still hear me. Um, great. Right. Um, just 2 minutes, guys. I'm just having a technical difficulty. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Sorry, just having difficulties moving my mouse. Okay, so as we don't have many questions, and thank you, Vicky. Um, I'm really happy to receive. I'm happy that you've enjoyed my webinar. Um, okay, so our next webinar is on springboards and dashboards. It's scheduled for the 10th of December. I mentioned earlier my team lead, Ashley, will be delivering it. So I hope to see you all on that one too. If you have any questions or would like some help regarding the areas we discussed today, please do check our knowledge base as we have loads of information and resources on there. In addition to that, authorized support contacts can contact the support team by email or phone or using our case portal. Alternatively, you can contact your account manager who will be more than happy to assist or at least point you in the right direction. And finally, we do have videos on our website on the following topics displayed on the screen. You'll also be able to find recordings for this one along with previous webinars, and then just select those webinar recordings. And that's it, everyone. Thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to tune in. And I apologize for all the technical difficulties I had towards the end. I was really fighting my mouse, but we look forward to seeing you on the next one in a couple of weeks. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.